Before we start today's episode of the I'm F.I.N.E podcast, we want to make sure to thank our partner at Trio. Don't wait. Be ready and connect with Trio. FAFSA applications are open this December. The sooner you apply, the higher chances you have of receiving the full grant. The Trio staff at Governor State University are the perfect people to help. Trio can help with the financial aid process and scholarship searches. Trio can provide fee waivers for admission applications, assist with the admission application processes, online tutoring, help with GED referrals, and provide payments for the GED test. Trio provides various avenues for career explorations as well as resume and interview preparation. Trio can also help you understand and complete your FAFSA application. If you're ready to take the next step on your educational journey, contact Trio at 708-235-3352 for more information, or visit their website, govst.edu/TRIOEOC. On today's episode of the I'm F.I.N.E podcast, we are going to talk about being freaked out, insecure, neurotic, and emotional about being Santa Claus. We're going to talk a little bit about the history of Old St. Nick, and then we're going to welcome our jolly friend into the studio where we are going to talk to Santa Claus about what his favorite Christmas movies are, the best gift he's ever been able to give, and try to settle the age-old debate of what the best Christmas cookie really is. So pour yourself a glass of milk, settle in for this Christmas-themed edition of the I'm F.I.N.E podcast.
Welcome to the I'm F.I.N.E podcast with your freaked out, insecure, neurotic, and emotional hosts, Eric Peterson and Brad Stozick.
Oh my God, man, we're here.
I know.
We made it.
We did.
We've been talking about the whole, when I told you that we were going to have Santa Claus on.
Yeah.
You didn't believe me.
No.
And here we are.
Here we are.
We made it. I have to make a conscientious effort to not swear. I'm going to do my best. I'm going to do everything that I can. I just feel like there's a lot of people right now, including myself up until recently, I just wasn't in the Christmas spirit. It was hard. And it's been a long year. It's been a long year for everybody. And you were telling me about how you weren't in the Christmas spirit and you just got back into it because you guys, so you just finished wrapping gifts with your your family?
We just finished. Everything's decorated finally. The house is decorated. Looks like a gingerbread house. The inside is decorated. So it feels a lot more crazy. The only thing we're missing is snow, man. I didn't think I was going to be like, oh, I miss snow, but...
Everybody wants a little bit of snow on Christmas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But other than that, I appreciate how ahead of the game you are.
Yeah.
I have not started Christmas shopping yet. Right now, we're recording this episode. It's December 21st. So I got plenty of time. You know what I mean? I will do my Christmas shopping on December 24th or the 23rd if I'm feeling froggy. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get a jump start on it this year. But the best part about it is that last year, I was doing my Christmas shopping on December 24th, and I was at Target, and I get to Target, and I'm not kidding. Other than the employees, everybody that was there shopping, all guys. All guys. It's just a bunch of boyfriends, dads, husbands. And at this point, I want to start getting to know these guys because I only see them once a year. We all see each other when we're buying our families Christmas presents. Hey, what's up, man? Hey, yep. Things are going good. Kids are growing up. You know what I mean?
That's funny.
So yeah, I wanted to get in the Christmas spirit. We wanted to have a fun episode. We wanted to do an episode where families could listen to, kids could listen to it, and who better to have on as a guest than Santa Claus? I had to stop myself from cussing right there before I said Santa.
I'm proud of you.
Okay, so
you can do this.
Before we bring the big man on, who's going to be here in a little bit, we found that Santa, as some of us have known, and I wasn't super familiar with, it's got a pretty extensive history.
Yeah.
across time, cultures. And so we looked up some of the stuff as far as like kind of where Santa Claus came from, what we found, and we found some stuff. So all of the statements that we're about to read here are according to www.artandobject.com. So the first rendition that we found of Santa, what did you get, Brad?
Yes. So the first sighting of Santa, it was Saint Nicholas of Myra.
Okay.
He was inspired. Saint Nicholas of Myra was a 4th century Greek bishop. He was known for his generosity and kindness. It is believed that he randomly threw money into the house of 3 poor sisters, and it ended up landing in their stockings that they were hanging out to dry.
Never knew that.
So that is where the idea of stockings came from.
That's very cool.
So Saint Nicholas is celebrated on his day, which is which is December 6th, and Saint Nicholas is the patron saint of children.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know how stockings, like where that even came from. I had no idea. That's a pretty cool story. Like he was just a super philanthropic dude and just threw some money into the house, landed in the socks, and they're like, you know what? We're going to do this every year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. There was, I'm sorry, before we go on, there was a period of time where obviously St. Nicholas became very popular within the community.
Yep.
During the Renaissance, it kind of died down a little bit because of the Protestant Reformation.
Okay.
So, I mean,
great job.
Yeah, right?
Great job,
Way to ruin happiness.
You made Santa Claus go away for a little bit. But that's okay, because he came back. So I got what I found, this rendition in this moment in time. Santa Claus was referred to as Sinterklaas, Sinterklaas. In the Netherlands and Belgium, St. Nicholas became Sinterklaas, who was a skinny man with flowing white, I imagine luxurious hair and beard, dressed in red fur-trimmed robes. In mid-November, he arrives by a steamboat from Spain to parade around on a white horse that can fly, carrying a large red book with the names of all the good children of the town. Then he returns on St. Nicholas Eve, December 5th, on his flying white horse and goes from house to house, entering through the chimney and leaving treats and goodies in the shoes of the children that are left by their beds, and where there are also treats that are left for the horse as well. So that was pretty cool. I thought that was pretty cool. I would love to see Santa on just a giant, flying, majestic white horse with just a big, beautiful, flowing beard. Like I get hair. Fabio vibes from that.
Oh, yes.
What did you get? What's the next one?
Yeah, so the next one is a little bit later, around the 16th century. Okay. It's Scrooge's third visitor. Mm-hmm. Everyone knows the tale of Scrooge. And he was known as Father Christmas, and this is the English personification of Christmas. Now synonymous with Santa Claus, the folkloric roots of Father Christmas, like I said, go back to the 16th century. It's a tall, bearded man clad in fur-trimmed robes. He embodies Christmas cheer. He's associated with peace, joy, feasting, and revelry. Father Christmas brings presents to good children and punishes the bad ones.
Why are you laughing about punishing bad kids?
Because I think this is the first time, because the other stories, he didn't punish anybody.
That's true. And at some point, parents are like, listen.
Leave it to the English.
Yeah.
In Victorian era, there was a resurgence of interest in Father Christmas, as epitomized by this colorized edition of John Leech's engraving for Charles Dickens' Ghost of Christmas Present. So, I mean, A Christmas Carol really solidified like what he looked like, and I think gave him an image.
That's cool. Okay.
Yeah.
So what I found, the next one is Old Santa Claus with Much Delight. So New Yorkers, embracing their Dutch roots, started popularizing stories of Santa Claus and Americanization of Sinterklaas in the early 1800s. Washington Irving's satirical Knickerbocker's History of New York, published in 1809, mentions Santa Claus numerous times, reflecting Santa's growing popularity with the public. An illustrated poem, Old Santa Claus with Much Delight, was published in 1821 by William B. Guiley, and the first published description of Santa Claus using a reindeer-drawn sleigh to deliver presents on Christmas Eve. So, at this point, 1800s, ditched the white horse.
Yep.
Got the reindeer and the sleigh.
Yep.
Okay.
The flowy. They also mentioned he was skinny. Right.
They mentioned he was skinny.
Yep.
I don't know. It doesn't say if he was still skinny or not.
He's about to not be, I don't think. With this next one.
What's it? What is it?
Santa the Jolly Old Elf.
Yep.
2 years later, after what you just read, the current conception of Santa Claus as a jolly old elf was popularized by Clement Clarke Moore's now infamous poem, A Visit from Santa Claus, otherwise known as 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. First published anonymously in 1823, Moore later claimed authorship in 1837. And then Thomas Nast's 1881 illustrations of Moore's poem published all across the U.S. after the Civil War. They have become iconic and helped... I can't read that word.
Irretrievably?
Wow. What? And I have a college degree.
Hey, a new one, though.
That's true. Led Santa Claus to Christmas in the popular imagination.
Okay. So I like the next one, Fit Santa. So descriptions of Santa have continued to vary following what Brad just wrote in 1837 through 1881. There's another article that features a charming black and white illustration from Rebecca Stone Rhodes' 1898 book, Gymnastics, Stories, and Plays for Primary Schools, Physical Exercises for the First 2 Years of School. It's a mouthful of a title. The opposite of Moore's Santa that you just read, this Santa Claus had a belly that jiggled like a bowl full of jelly. This fits Santa... wait. Sorry, man. Let's start back. I didn't when I put all this stuff on there, I should have read it a little bit more. Hold on a second. And Jake, this is another part we'll actually have to cut out. The opposite of Moore's Santa with a belly that jiggled like a bowl full of jelly, this fit Santa gets quite a workout hauling presents and climbing chimneys. So yeah, Santa's just super ripped. Which is scary.
That is scary. I don't like that.
Just a rip, like I'm thinking like, maybe not necessarily ripped because he's eating the cookies. I feel like, I don't know, like a Brock Lesnar. Remember Brock Lesnar in UFC? Like I'm thinking like that, like just a big, strong dude coming into your house, eating cookies and dropping off presents, which is delightful.
I don't know why, but in my head he has a German accent.
I mean, maybe. Have you seen Rise of the Guardians? I think I asked you this before.
No.
Where Santa's got a Russian accent.
Really?
He's big and he's tatted. He's got sleeve tattoos. One sleeve says naughty. The other one says nice. It's so awesome. Sorry. Anyway.
No, that's good.
Next one. What do you got?
Yeah. So the next one, we have a changing Santa. So between 1900 and 1909, greeting cards illustrated Santa's costume had yet to be standardized. So while his coat is red, he's wearing a furry green hat with ear flaps, and not the iconic pointed red cap. And then in the photo, in the poem, he's holding a switch, and there's a crying child, are evidence of his association with the punishment of bad children. Something most modern depictions gloss over.
So he punishes the kids sometimes.
With a switch.
I mean, those were different times. Santa was a product of his environment. If that's what they were doing at the time, I don't hold it against Santa because, I mean, I think about myself when I was a kid when I was naughty, and I probably deserve that. You know what I mean?
That's fair.
So, I like the title of the next one, Cheeky Santa. So, the first successful humor magazine in the United States was called Puck. And Puck was known for colorful cartoons, caricatures, and political satire. It was founded in 1871 and published until 1918. Now, this somewhat satirical cover depicts Santa in his now familiar fur-trimmed hat and suit, engaged in the very unsaintly activity of kissing a pretty girl under the mistletoe. Santa's got to get his every once in a while. You know what I mean? Maybe that was Mrs. Claus.
There you go.
Who are we to judge? I'm not going to judge. He's been doing this for like thousands of years, man. He's got to kiss a girl at some point if he wants. You know what I mean? I'm not
especially under the mistletoe. You have to.
Under the mistletoe, that's a law or something.
Yeah.
I think,
oh, yeah.
Right? So I get it. What's the next one?
The next one is Santa tallying his expenses. So Norman Rockwell's 1920 picture of Santa cements the red outfit and jolly, pleasantly plump physique associated with Santa Claus in the popular imagination. This
benevolent.
God, dude. This benevolent elderly man squints into the distance while going over his account books. A circle of smiling children superimposed behind him, dressed in a slightly straining red waistcoat. With a spring of holly in his hair, Rockwell's Santa is undeniably festive and kind, irrevocably establishing him as the beloved gift bringer of childhood Christmas dreams.
Okay. And then the last one we found, same article. All of this was a part of that same article. This one was called "Merry Christmas to All, and to All a Good Fight." So, in this vintage World War II poster on the web, on this article, they have Santa that is dressed in his now signature red fur-trimmed suit and hat, and he's hefting a bag over his shoulder that's full of biplanes and tanks. His red mittened hand holds a note stating that these things are for the boys on the front to be delivered to the Axis leaders Hitler, Tojo, and Mussolini. This poster uses Santa to bring hope, Christmas, cheer, and a feeling of support to the troops. It seems to say things have gone pretty well since we've had Santa on our side, reflecting how entrenched Santa is in the modern psyche. So that's pretty gangster. I appreciate that he brought biplanes and tanks to us too. That's pretty cool. I don't know if he's bringing any today. I doubt it. I mean, I'll check his bag, but I mean, you got to take care of the troops on the front lines.
Sure.
You got to do what you got to do, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate Santa for that. So now that you've gotten to hear a bit about how Santa has evolved over the years, it's time to bring the big man in himself. So stay tuned, because when we come back, we are going to be interviewing the man, the myth, the legend, Kris Kringle. We're going to be talking to Santa Claus. I'm not going to lie. This has kind of been a dream for Brad and for myself. We are sitting here in the studio with Santa Claus. Santa, thank you so much for being here.
Hello there. How are you, Eric?
I'm just trying not to freak out right now.
Right?
We've talked to we talked to Sebastian Younger, war journalist. We talked to Lonnie Bedwell, famous adventurer. When I talked to them, not really nervous.
No.
Santa Claus? I'm pretty nervous, bro. Like, it means a lot. Thank you so much for being here today, taking some time out of your insanely busy schedule to be here. Pulled up in a red Ford F-150, which I appreciate because, and I talked to you about it when I saw you and you pulled up and I was like, no sleigh, no reindeer. And you were like, why would I bring them? I can't bring them out right now this close to the big day.
Yeah. Yeah,
it totally makes sense.
The reindeer, they got to practice all day long, and then the elves make sure that the sleigh is in tip-top shape.
Yep.
Because we can't have any oopses on Christmas Eve.
The amount of stretches. Whatsoever. Oh my God. Like, yeah, so it totally makes sense. And then to see you out here, like, again, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for taking the time to be here.
Well, thank you for having me.
Oh my God. This is so awesome. Brett, I'm just trying to, one, I'm trying to keep my composure. Two, I'm trying not to swear. And we talked about this beforehand, that I was going to do my absolute best. So we have some questions that we wanted to throw your way, if that's okay, Sam.
Sure.
Okay. So obviously, this is your busiest time of the year. So I have to imagine you have a pretty solid support system. Just to take the time to be able to get away from the operations, to do a podcast, stuff like that. So, I mean, what does Santa's support system look like?
Well, I mean, first of all, I have all of the parents, all of the grandmas, all the grandpas, all the aunts, uncles, they support me tremendously. They help me out. They make sure they tell me, if the children have been doing good or if they've been misbehaving and what they need a little help in. And there's nothing wrong with that. We all do it. We all have done it. So Mrs. Claus, she's a real trooper. She is. She's just fantastic. She makes sure I have my suit clean. She makes sure that I have my cookies and my milk. She makes sure that I get to where I need to be on time. She is my schedule lady. She's my biggest asset. She really is. And that I love her to death, and she makes sure that the elves are doing what they're supposed to.
I was going to ask that the elves are a help or a hindrance, because sometimes I see conflicting evidence.
Well, they so I have over 3 million elves.
Oh my God.
Okay.
That's a lot.
So it is. But you figure there's almost 600 million children in the whole world that I have to take care of. I have to look after, and that is a lot of things to be made for a lot of children.
Yeah, that's true.
She somehow, some way, makes sure they do their thing. And the elves, out of that number, I probably have 200, because I've got asked this the other day. If I have any lazy elves.
Out of 3 million, there's got to be
at least one.
I told them, I says, honestly, probably I have about 200 of them that need a little push along, sometimes in that. I mean, they would like to test out everything, but they over test it and they just keep playing and keep playing and keep playing and keep playing. Mm-hmm. So, you have to reel them back in and say, hey, you have a job to do. Let's get this done. And that, so the elves, they do wonderful. They really do. And that I have my head elf, Bernard, and that, of course, that, he makes sure everything goes right. I have Alex, my elf, that she goes with me sometimes and makes sure that, I'm doing and I'm where I'm supposed to be. She helped me out today. I went and seen a few schools today and that. And she helped me out to make sure that I got to where I was supposed to be on time. So, the elves, they play a big part. They do.
Yeah, 200 out of 3 million, I don't feel like is a bad number.
No, that's not bad at all.
And I'm not saying that I want to replace Bernard, but what I will say is we were talking when you came in. I was like, hey, if you ever got any job openings for like another lead elf, I think I would be a solid, I'd have to work on the swearing, but if I did that, I think I would be a great lead elf. I'm super, anyway, sorry.
But there's just one other requirement that you might have a hard time with, Eric, and that is you need to have pointy ears.
I will get corrective surgery, Santa Claus. I don't think you understand how serious I am to be the lead elf. I would be more about security. I feel like I'm running for a political office.
Right.
Here's my stance to be Santa's lead elf. Sorry. Brad, what's your question? What do you
got? My question is, how does Mrs. Claus handle you being gone for Christmas?
It's a good question.
Well, she does pretty good. And that there again, Christmas Eve, that is the busy night of all of them. And we have been married for so long, and that she's pretty well used to it. She knew when we got married that this is what she was in for, and she handles it very well. I mean, she can watch me now on the Santa tracker and everything like that, so she knows where I'm at, and that. So that helps a lot than from the old days. But she does very well with it. I mean, she makes sure, because I have to keep replenishing as I go, and that. So she helps out back at the North Pole to make sure that everything is replenished. All the right sacks are in the right order, in that. So she does really well, and that she really enjoys it. She loves working with the elves. They're all like her children, I mean, they are, and all the elves just love her to death, and I think it's mostly because she makes the best cookies that there is.
I know you're a saint, but I feel like she's got the patience of one, because I'm having a hard time with 2 kids, much less 3 million children.
Yep.
So another one too that I was thinking of as you pulled up, Rudolph, his nose.
Yeah.
Is it actually red?
Yes, it is.
It really
glows. Yes, it does. And
okay. All right, good.
He works on it. And I mean, he has to, because he knows what his job is. I mean, he knows that if there is a strong winter storm, if there is some fog, whatever, that he's going to have to lead everybody. So his nose, for some reason, glows red. And he has his own little special polish that he's made up himself, and he rubs it on there. And when I need it, it is the brightest red beacon you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah, you got to take care of that thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's his thing. So he's got to make sure he's taking care of that constantly year round. That's a lot of maintenance. Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm good with that one. What else you got, Brad?
Yes. So with all of the children in the world, how do you remember their names? Like, how do you memorize so many kids' names?
Well, actually, that's a little bit of a myth, because I remember a lot of children's names. But once again, this is why Santa has a list. Whether it be the nice list or naughty list, the elves have a list for me. Nowadays they've even came to as far as now each child's name has a little picture of what they look like then, because, as they grow, they change in features and that. And the elves keep up with a picture so that I know, where I'm going, who's who, and everything like that. So sometimes when I'm out and about visiting the children, through the schools and stuff, the elves don't have a list ready for me or anything like that, because, they're busy doing other stuff.
Right.
And they don't get me a list right away.
Yeah.
So at that point, I do not really know a lot of children's names. I can remember a few faces in that, but there's, like I said, 600 million children in the world. That's a lot. For an old man like me, that's 1,748 years old to remember.
Who's counting?
You don't look a day over 39, Santa.
Thank you. I appreciate
fantastic.
that. Thank you.
If you have a staffing issue with the elves, it sounds like maybe you need a new lead elf. Again, I'm just throwing that out there, Santa. I'm just throwing that out there.
So I should take note.
So you travel all over the world.
Yeah.
Favorite place? What's your favorite place to go to?
Ooh,
if you had to pick one.
That is a good
Thank
question.
You. Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to say my favorite place to go to, and it's going to sound kind of funny, but it is the North Pole. And here's why. And that all the snow, all the glistening of the ice, the way the northern lights are, and that, I mean, it is the most beautiful place you've ever seen. And that, so, I don't want to be biased, I guess, but the North Pole with the northern lights and all of that is just beautiful. Now, the only downfall of it is it's really cold.
But it's home.
Yes.
But it's home. And I've never got to see the northern lights before, and that is one thing that is legitimately on my bucket list.
Oh, mine as well.
Yeah.
That'd be very cool.
They're beautiful, and that they are. They've been there, done that, seen them. They are absolutely beautiful.
That's so cool. Brad?
Yes. How do you know if a kid belongs on the nice list or the naughty list?
Well, once again, it's mostly on the elves. The elves keep good track of that. But how do I want to say this? To be on the naughty list is very, very rare, because you have to do something extremely bad to get on the naughty list. of Santa Claus. Now, if you do something bad, like, you don't clean your room, you don't eat your vegetables, you don't do what mom or dad says or whatever, and that can get you a step closer to the naughty list, but you need to have about, 150 of those episodes before you're going to go on that list.
Just be careful saying that, because my youngest is like writing this down. Like, okay, I got 150 shots before I'm for sure on the naughty list.
I'm only at 112.
That's a rough approximate. That is a rough approximate. But yeah, because it's saying like if you make a mistake, everyone makes mistakes.
Most definitely.
And I feel like some kids sometimes, especially like with my oldest, I see it. She gets anxious around Christmas because she wants to make sure that she's doing good things. And she made a mistake the other day, and she even said to me, she was like, I don't want Santa. I don't want to be on the naughty list.
Nah.
And I think that my personal opinion, and I'm curious on your opinion on this, Santa, is like, if you're asking yourself like, am I on the naughty list? Like, I hope I'm not on the naughty list. If you're questioning that, you're probably not on the naughty list.
Right.
Because you're self-aware. You're just trying to stay off it. So what you're saying is like, if you are far down that road, really, like, you got to be committed to that life.
Yes, most definitely.
Does it change on election years? You don't have to answer that. I was curious because next year's coming up. I just figured like it might be easier for Santa because like the naughty list is just like crazy. I don't know.
And there's just one thing Santa don't talk about.
I respect it.
And it's politics.
I respect that. Well, speaking of speaking of politics, so stress. So around the holidays, I mean, you're the guy. You're the one. You're the guy. Granted, you have a huge team. Mrs. Claus is your biggest asset, like you said. I get that. 3 million elves. That's super helpful. But the stress of being on top, the stress of managing it all.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that stress? Or are you just used to it? Is it still work in progress? Like, how do you deal with it?
Oh, it will always be a work in progress. I will guarantee you that. Because, I mean, just when you think you've seen it all, you've talked about it all, you've done it all, good or bad, something gets thrown at you. And the thing is, you just have to take I have in my mindset that I'm doing the best I can. Yep. This is what I can do. I'm doing the best I can. It might be good enough for most people. It may not be good enough for a lot of people, but I'm here. I'm going to make you happy, and that this is what it's all about. This season, this time of season, and what helps me is when I go out and I see people that have the spirit, and I call it the spirit of Santa Claus in them. That's what helps me a lot. When I see people out there giving and, would rather give than take anything. That's to me, that is Santa Claus. That's Santa Claus right there. Yep. That's what Santa Claus is. That's who Santa Claus is. Santa Claus will give and give and give to his heart content. And, when I see another individual doing that or another organization doing that, whatever, it means a lot, and it helps a lot to know that I'm not the only one out there doing it.
If I may, I would never, ever, ever draw any like parallels between myself and Santa Claus. That being said, the one thing that I will say is like ever since I started a nonprofit, it works with veterans, and there are a lot of situations that are very difficult to deal with. You find yourself dealing with that kind of stuff. Having the support and watching others do that which you preach gives you the motivation to continue doing what you're doing.
Exactly.
Even when you're having an off day.
Yeah.
I love that.
Most definitely.
I'm glad that.
And like I said, that's, to me, I'm Santa Claus, okay? But you're Santa Claus. You're Santa Claus. You are. In your own way, you are.
It's a bucket list moment right there. I just want to take a really quick second and say that Santa Claus just said that you and me are both Santa Claus. That moment is frozen in time forever.
Now, with that being said, I still got the best looks.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fine. Yeah. No, I get it. That's cool. That's okay. That's okay.
Yep.
Entry into being Santa Claus. Sorry, Brad. What's your next question, buddy?
Yeah. So with all the stress of the holidays, how does Santa self-care? Like, what do you do for self-care, Santa?
So, well, that's a good question. So, one thing, what Eric is doing now, I love to eat cookies and drink milk. I mean, it is the greatest thing in the world. I like to bake. I like to cook. I help Mrs. Claus on the off season and that. After Christmas is done, I take a few days and I just sit back and I think about what happened through the Christmas season, what good things happen, what great things happen, and what rough things happen. Yeah. I just kind of absorb it all, I guess, vegetate on it, whatever you want to say. That right there, and I just think to myself of, okay, I did this and this and this year. What can I do better next year? Wow. And that you always want to do something better, always. And that, at least for me, it is, I did this year, but you know what? I could do this way next year and it's going to be way better. So that's my self-care, I guess, is that, I think I'm always thinking, well, I can do this much better.
And that's saying a lot, saying that, like, taking into consideration you've been doing this for over 1,000 years and you're still like practicing continuous improvement, which I like that because it lets you know that no matter how long you've been around, no matter what you've seen, no matter what you've done, you can always strive to just be a little better. That doesn't mean that what you're doing is wrong. It just means that, you need to be cognizant of what you're doing and questioning yourself, evaluating yourself. I love that. That's very cool.
And, that's awesome. And, it's like I said, it's what I do. And it helps a lot. It really does. And that, Santa has several helpers. I mean, everybody knows this, and that there's several of helpers that Santa has. And, I'll even learn from them. And that, they can give some great advice on different things, the way they do things. And that, because there's Santas all over the world. I mean, Germany, everywhere. Yeah. Santa Claus is everywhere. Yeah. And that, and you can learn. And that's what we do, is we just learn together and, take it to the next step.
I love that. So that kind of plays into my question. Is there anything else that you do to stay jolly? Because you embody that, right? You embody that despite all the stress, despite everything else that you're doing. You are such an not overwhelming, but just a positive force of nature, of being happy, of being jolly. What else do you do to stay jolly?
Oh man, that's a good question. How am I going to answer this? I got to figure out the way I'm going to say this. And that, I have, always been the happy-go-lucky guy, I've always been the one that wants to make you laugh, and the jokester, even when I was younger and that, but, man, I don't know. That's one of the hardest questions I've ever been asked, I have to say. And that,
nice.
What, how do I keep myself so happy? I'll put it to you this way. Maybe you have never seen that I've never been happy, that I've never been jolly.
Right.
There is times.
Of course.
Oh, there is. And that, but I always feel that when I go out and I see somebody, whether it be an adult, whether it be a child, a lot of times when they see me and they smile and they laugh and they wave and they're like, oh my gosh, there's Santa Claus. That's what keeps me going.
Oh man,
Honest to goodness, that is what keeps me happy and jolly, because no matter where I go, that's what I see. No matter what time of year it is, that's what I see, because of course they recognize the beard, they recognize, even if I'm not in my red suit, but I'll be wearing a red t-shirt or something in my hat on the off season, and people are like, Santa Claus, and I'm like, yeah, maybe not. Think about it, but they laugh, they smile, and you know what? I just made that person's day. That person just had a moment of happiness, and that's what it's all about.
I mean, okay, real quick. So behind this, last time I saw Santa last year, because we're like BFFs, no big deal.
Yeah.
He even brought me a challenge coin, which I'm going to put on. If you're watching this on YouTube, got a challenge coin from Santa Claus. I'm going to show that right there. And I have challenge coins from generals, sergeant majors, all that other stuff. When I got a challenge coin from Santa Claus, I went over to Nick Smith, who was also there, and I was like, bro, look at this. And he goes, what? And he immediately ran over to Santa. A grown man. And he was like, nah, man, I'm getting a Santa Claus challenge coin. And he said the same thing. It's like, man, I got challenge coins from like generals and stuff. This is the coolest challenge coin I will ever have because it's from Santa Claus. And again, knowing that you have that power, not maybe power is not the right word, knowing that you have that effect on people to make them instantly happy is amazing. It's like a superpower, and it's an underestimated superpower of yours. Sorry, Brad.
Yes.
You have the next question. What do you
I
got?
do have a question. So not every house has a chimney, Santa. In those cases, how do you do your thing?
Well, it's funny you asked me that, because I've been asked that several times, and I happen to carry this magic key with me everywhere I go.
Oh,
and here it is. And I don't know if everybody can see that.
Yep.
Okay. And this is my key that will unlock either the front door or the back door of your house to let me in, and I'll leave the presents under the tree on Christmas Eve.
Nice.
But you have to make sure that this key will only work on Christmas Eve. That is the only time it has its magic.
There's got to be checks and balances.
I carry it with me so I don't lose it, of course, or the elves lose it, whichever. But yeah, that's the reason I have the key, and that's how I get in. It's funny you ask that question also, because I was at a gathering, excuse me, and a young man came up to me, probably 7, 8 years old, and he asked the same question. And I explained to him how I get in. When they're asleep, you're asleep at night, Santa gets in and leave the presents. And he just looked at me and says, okay. And he walked away. And about 20 minutes later, he comes up to me and he says, Santa, about that key. And I'm like, uh-oh. Yes. He says, isn't that breaking and entering?
Listen. All right, kid. It's a good question. Smart kid.
It is. I mean, I couldn't believe it, I was like, he took me by surprise, and can you say that again? And he told me, he says, that's breaking and entering. I says, well, but you have to understand. I said, I'm not breaking in your house, for one. I have a key and it's letting me in. And he says, yeah, but we're asleep and we don't know you're coming in. I said, okay, but when you go to sleep that night, isn't it that Santa is coming Christmas Eve night? He's like, yeah, okay. I said, and on top of that, how else would I leave the presents under the tree for you if I wasn't able to get in? Now, once again, very smart young man. He says, well, can't you ship them?
Ship them?
I said, well, you're right. I could call FedEx, UPS, United States Postal Service, whichever. I could have them send them to you through that. But we all know how things get lost in the mail. I said, so how would you feel if you woke up Christmas morning, run downstairs and they didn't get them delivered. Right. I said, I will almost guarantee you I will get the presents delivered for you to have Christmas morning.
Yeah, I mean, you order something on Amazon right now and like everything's on back order. Like, you gotta imagine shipping's going to be impacted, much less if Santa had to take his operations and start mailing presents. Yeah. Like, good Lord, good luck. Yeah. I'm going to get my Christmas present like March or something like that if I get it. Okay, that makes sense.
So, I told him, and he actually looked at me, and all I got was, huh. And he walked away. And I was like, I think I answered his question. I really did. But very, very smart young man. I mean, really and truly. I give him that, but I'm like, no. Santa is not breaking in a house.
It's not breaking it in. No. Okay. Also, cops show up and you're like, hey, what's up, Chuck? Remember when I gave you that little toy police officer uniform? It's me. It's like, oh, Santa. All right. It's fine. It happens. They probably got a call, like a code number for it. They're like, hey, it's another, Santa Claus who's in here. It is not a B&E. Just keep moving. You know what I mean? So that makes sense. Now, you brought up Bernard, your elf, your lead elf before. I learned about Bernard because of the Santa Claus movie with Tim Allen. Now, there's a lot of renditions of you in movies. Mm-hmm. Is there one that sticks out to you that you really like, or your favorite one?
Most definitely.
Yeah. Which one?
That would be the Santa Claus from the original Miracle on 34th Street.
Dude, that's like one of the only Christmas movies I have not seen, but I will watch it. Weren't we talking about this the other night?
We were, yep.
Because I've seen It's a Wonderful Life, but you haven't.
No.
And you've seen the original Miracle on 34th Street, but I have not.
No, he is the best.
I'm going to watch it now.
Yep. He is. And he really will make you a believer.
You give credit to where credit's due. I respect that.
Definitely. He's an awesome guy.
Outside of that, favorite Christmas movie?
Christmas Vacation.
Yes. Yep.
That's a good one.
Great one.
That's a good one.
I watched that yesterday. Glad to hear that.
I'm going to tell you this. If you ask Mrs. Claus her favorite, you're not going to believe this.
Okay.
It's got Bruce Willis in it.
We were talking about this.
We were also talking about this, bro. I told you Die Hard's a Christmas movie confirmed by Santa Claus himself. More or less. Right?
That's
Mrs. Claus' favorite movie?
That's Mrs. Claus' favorite movie. And she calls it her Christmas movie.
Yes.
And
everything, it's at a Christmas party. Everything's Christmas themed. It is a Christmas movie, and it's Mrs. Claus's favorite. You heard it here. That is a Christmas movie. Who else are you going to ask?
That's
awesome.
That is very cool.
All right, Brett, what's your next one? What do you got?
Yes. So over the years, you've given lots of gifts, Santa. What was your favorite gift that you have ever given, or do you have one?
There's been so many gifts. But I did here 4 or 5 years ago. I brought a soldier home to his family for Christmas.
Really?
And that was one of my most epic times and epic presents to bring home to him, because they hadn't seen him for, I'm trying to think. It was 8 to 10 years. I mean, between being deployed overseas and being away, at different stations and that throughout the country and stuff, it'd been that long and that. And it was the coolest thing. I had one of my old Santa suits, and I dressed him up as my Santa's helper.
Oh, wow.
We found a artificial beard and put on him and that, so he could, be just like a Santa's helper. And I went to the family's house And we came in, and I know the family very well, and I told him, I says, I said, I brought one of my new helpers with me here. I said, and I, want to bring him in, and you tell me your thoughts of what he needs to do to improve himself, and that. And so I brought him in, and they had no clue, even him standing there. He disguised his voice a little bit, and grandma and grandpa was sitting there, aunts and uncles, brothers and sisters. One brother and sister. And I said, would you guys like to really meet who he is and that? And they said, yeah, and they were just sitting there, and they had no clue whatsoever. And he took that beard and wig off, and the whole place erupted. It was the best thing I've ever seen in my life. And it really was. It meant a lot to me that they would ask me to do it. And I was like, yeah, by all means, we'll make this work. And I mean, we went through, him and I had talked, message back and forth, how you want to do this, Santa? How do you want to bring me in? All this stuff. And I was going to get a big sack, and I was practicing. I was going to try carrying him in.
Yep.
And then just, drop the sack open and
fit Santa.
All this. And all of a sudden I'm like, well, so we both don't get hurt trying to go through the doorway. Why don't we do it like this? And he was like, yeah, that'd be perfect, Santa. And I said, then that's what we're going to do. And that's what we did. And it was, I'm going to say the best present I've ever given anybody was to see the happiness on their face and the joy on their face when he took that beard off.
That's very cool.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
It was, like I said, the best present I've ever given. And that was, to see everybody so happy and so joyful at that point.
And I feel like that has to be at the essence of like receiving a gift. It's about somebody giving you something because of love, and they want you to feel that love.
Yep.
Then you open that gift and you see it, and you appreciate it so much to such a profound level that it fills you full of joy because somebody went out of their way to make this happen to you, to get this thing for you, to bring this person there for you. Yeah. And like, what better of an example than to bring a soldier back to their family?
Yeah, it was awesome. And that, like I said, when he reached out to me, I was like, ecstatic. I thought it was great. I'm like, yeah. I said, most definitely, buddy. I said, I talked about, I said, you want me to put a red bow on your head? I was going to do whatever I could. And that, and then when I came up, I says, I've got an extra suit. I said, I have thousands and thousands of helpers. I said, why don't you just be one of my helpers? You can walk in with me. And it was they had not a clue. It was so much better. It was. Yeah. Because I thought, okay, maybe they'll figure it out. But they hadn't seen him for so long. His build had changed and everything like that. So yeah, it was awesome. And that I loved every minute of it. So that's my favorite. Then the second favorite would have to be, I did bring, and it doesn't happen often because it's very, very hard to do, is that I brought a puppy in my sack to a house, to a family that really, really wanted a puppy.
Oh, yeah.
But like I tell the children, it is extremely hard for Santa to bring live animals.
Yeah, logistically. Yeah. You got to imagine, especially depending on how many kids are asking for live animals, and then all the different types of live animals you could ask, like essentially you got Noah's Ark in that sack.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Then you got to feed them.
Yeah.
You got to deal with the waste.
Yep.
Yes.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
No. Robotic dogs, though. Go for that. That wouldn't be so bad. Well, okay, so it might be a tougher question for you, Santa. Now, I understand that those are the best gifts that you've ever given. Those are amazing gifts. What is the hardest thing a kid has ever asked you for?
Well, I've I've dealt with several children throughout the world. And I've dealt with children that are sick and children that are deathly sick to that mean old monster that I call it, the cancer. And I've been asked to get rid of their cancer. I've been asked to not let them die. And, you know, that's the hardest thing you've ever been asked for, because there's just some things Santa can't do. And one of them is, you know, take the place of a doctor, you know, of medicine. And it's very hard when you look in that child's face and you know, and they know that, you know, they have a bad thing happening to them and that. And, you know, I just tell them that, you know, they need to have faith in God. God knows what he's doing, you know, even though we may not think so at that time, you know, and everybody will ask why? Heck, Santa asks why? And that, but, there's a reason and that, but I tell them to have faith in God, pray to God, and I pray with them and I pray for them, and I will pray for them as long as I have to. And, you know, miracles have happened. But that's the hardest gift. That, or I had a little girl that asked me one time to bring her friend back. And I thought, you know, her friend moved away or something. You know, I mean, this is a little girl that was like 8, 9 years old and that. And she sat on my lap and she was just very sad, very sad. And, you know, I was talking to her and, you know, I asked her, I said, well, what would you like for Christmas? And she says, well, Santa, I really want my friend to come back. And I'm like, well, you know, has your friend moved away or what? And she says, no, Santa, he died. And I'm like, well, you know, once again, I says, there is something Santa can't do, and bring somebody back to life is one of them. And I can't. She says, but I really, really miss him.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, she looks up at me and she's got these big old crocodile tears running down her face. And, you know, she just about had crocodile tears running down Santa's face because it was very sad. Right. And that, and I told her, I says, well, here's what I'm going to tell you. What you will know is that your friend will never leave you. Your friend will be with you. I says, maybe not, you know, sitting right next to you. I says, that you know of. I said, but you'll get signs from them, you know, and that. I says, you'll hear a song and it'll make you think of them. I said, you'll see a snowflake. You'll see, you know, whatever. And it'll be like, wow, you know, that reminds me of my friend. And, I said, and that's the best thing you can do. I says, but I'll bet if you pray, I says, and you even talk to him in your prayers. I said, somehow, some way, I said, your friend's going to answer you. And that, and I truly believe that, and that I really do. And that, so, you know, like I say, those are the tough ones. You know, to have a child that, like I said, is dying of a leukemia or of a cancer, and they are sitting there and you can just tell that they've been run through the ringer because of this, and they ask you to help them live another day. It's tough.
Well, and we talked about when you first came in here, like, I think it was before we started recording, but we might have started recording, like, what people think being Santa is. And a lot of it, I'm sure, is pretty on the money. Like, super jolly, out there slinging presents, like doing good stuff. But like, yeah, like you said, you have the times where you get stressed out. You got the things that you have to deal with. You have to hear stuff like that. Like, what? Like, I couldn't imagine the weight of having to hear those types of things year in, year out, and continue to do what you do. But, excuse me, if I may say, I think I have to correct you on something that you said, because you said that that there's nothing you can do. And other than what you had mentioned about praying with them and things like that, which I respect and agree with. But the other thing that you do is, you give science kits to these kids. You give doctors. You gave my daughter, my oldest, a doctor's kit, a couple of years ago. You do these things that encourage them to look into being a doctor, being a scientist, being something that solves that problem, that cures that problem. Like, you never know. You know what I mean? Right. You probably gave Tesla one of his first things, or Einstein, or any of those guys. Like, you put the tool in their hand, and they took that and they used it to make a difference. So I think you might be doing more than you know. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Never thought of it that way, but you're right. Yeah.
That's why I should be the lead elf. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm here for.
So, thank you. Eric, would you like to be the lead elf?
Bye, Bernard. No, I'm kidding. I would co-do it with Bernard. It would be fine. He could be the day shift, and I would be the night shift. Which would be fine. I'll deal with those 200 lazy elves and like the warehouse elves, because I know how warehouse elves probably are. Like 4 mugs of hot chocolate into it. You know what I mean? Not paying attention. Just like, I don't know. Sorry. Before, I know you got to get out of here.
Yeah.
One more question.
Yeah.
This is going to be the one that breaks the podcast, I think.
Yep.
Santa.
Yeah.
What is your favorite cookie?
Well, first off, I'll put it this way. I have never had a bad cookie. Okay. Ever. In that. But if I have to go with my favorite, it's chocolate chip.
Chocolate chip.
Classic.
Absolutely.
I get that. I was thinking about that. Yeah.
But now, Mrs. Claus has tried something a little different, which is really good. It's a peanut butter cookie with chocolate chips in it.
Yeah, I mean, peanut butter and chocolate's perfect.
That's a good pairing.
Yeah.
That's a good
Reese's
pairing.
peanut butter cups. Like, yeah, I get that. I like white chocolate macadamia nut. I found my way into those.
Those are good.
Big fan.
Those are good. I like the raspberry cheesecake.
Oh, yeah.
That's fancy.
Those are really
That's
good.
fancy, though, because, and Santa don't get very, very fancy cookies. He's usually the plain Jane ones, but if I do,
the raspberry.
You heard it here first. Yeah. Make sure you are making those fancy cookies for Santa Claus.
Yes.
Best as you can.
Yes.
Well, listen, Santa, I know you got to get out of here. I know you got a lot of things to do prepping for the big day. I can't tell you how much it means for you to be on here and to really kind of share some stuff, to talk about the good and the bad, my friend. It's awesome.
I loved it. And that I thank you so much for asking me, guys. I really do. And that I didn't think I was going to make it with my busy schedule, but by gosh, we made it work, and I am extremely happy that we did. You had some of the most awesome questions. Thanks so much for asking them. It was great. I appreciate being here. And I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah.
Do you listen to some you started getting into some podcasts?
Yeah.
You said you listen to our podcast. You listened to a couple episodes.
I did. Yeah.
Brad.
We made it.
We made it. I don't care if no one else listens.
Nope.
We heard
Santa
it
listens.
right here. Santa listens to our podcast. He said that when he sat down. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like,
and just so you know, the podcast thing is something new to Santa. To listen to. So you are like the top of my list of the one that I watch. Yeah.
Got a lot out of this episode. I'm Lead Elf. Santa listens to our podcast. And Die Hard's a Christmas movie.
And Die Hard's
and
a
it's
Christmas
Mrs. Claus's favorite movie.
Yes.
All right. Well, Santa Claus, I got to tell you, Merry Christmas, my friend.
Merry Christmas, guys. Take care of yourself, and Santa will see you on Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas from the Fine family, the Fat family. If you're listening to this, we sincerely hope you have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and we will talk to you soon.